every time we see these two men match up. It's as good as it gets in WWE.
It can go either way at this point. Chris Jericho, ladies and gentlemen, may have just forced Rey Mysterio to unmask forever.
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spenser.
I am the best in the world at what I do.
And I am...
Shut up and listen to me! Do you understand the words that I'm saying to you right now, sir?
We are coming to you from June 28th, 2009, from the Arco Arena in Sacramento, California, at the Don't Call It Great American Bash.
Oh.
It's Chris Jericho
They didn't.
versus Rey Mysterio, title versus mask for the Intercontinental Championship.
Ooh, man. I gotta say, guys, I was watching the program live at the time. I thought this was a good era for wrestling. Oh, boy, was I wrong. I rewatched this entire pay-per-view. To say it's a mixed bag is an understatement.
Let me tell you something. I don't know if any of our listeners would have thought that we would have ever put a WWE 2009 match on our list.
Listen, lightning can strike in the most unsuspecting places.
And don't worry, next week we're going to cover the ECW Championship Scramble match for episode 65.
I just want to point out that I watched this pay-per-view. I ordered this off pay-per-view.
I did too.
I paid $59.99 to watch this.
Yep, I did
with
not.
all of my wrestling friends, and we all thought this was a good show.
Yeah, at the time, you know, the product was what the product was. It was Randy Orton's big title run, you know what I mean?
Ooh.
Or one of them. And
yeah, but it's one. He got one shot at it.
This was the year where fans got tired of seeing Randy Orton versus John Cena.
and versus Triple H.
Yeah.
This
But
is that year.
you know, ultimately, this is a match that even if, and it'll be really interesting when we rank it, you know, later on in the episode, but I think could easily be said might be a forgotten classic or an underrated gem.
I forgot
perhaps.
about
I
it.
think that is probably the fairest way to say that.
Let's say that.
So this is a night where we saw 3 stages of hell.
We did.
One of those stages was a singles match. How stupid.
The first fall will be a traditional wrestling match
That's
to break the
dumb.
spirit. The second fall will be a street fight. The third fall will be inside a hell. No, I'm sorry.
It was a
The third fall will be inside a steel cage.
No,
It was a stretcher
I
match.
think
Oh, it was a stretcher. It was a stretcher match.
Actually,
It was
I
the
really-
weirdest three stages
And do you
of
guys
hell
know, the next night on Raw, we got a last man standing match from these two. That was the entire second hour of Raw.
I would love, actually, if we could just keep recording this episode and just have you say the last fall will be, and then do any stipulation
the
afterwards.
last fall
We'll
will
just-
be a spit-swapping makeout match. God damn it.
Da, 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 da.
The last fall will be a shoots and ladders match.
It is, in fact, episode number 64 here on Last Match Standing. As a reminder, we're coming hot off the heels of Square Circle Expo, which was a total blast. If we met you, it was a pleasure. If we didn't, maybe next year.
It was
Yeah,
also a pleasure.
Yeah,
no, seriously. I mean, what a great time. We met some incredible people,
Yeah.
made some lifelong partnerships, I think. So
We met
Yeah.
Kane.
some exciting things coming.
It was awesome.
Kane, yeah.
Hey, he's very tall.
It was a lot of fun headlining that expo, I will say. But if you are new to the show or you've been listening for a long time and you want to interact with us, there are plenty of ways to do that. First of which is at Last Match Cast on Twitter and Facebook. You can interact with us there. You can also send us an email at lastmatchstanding@gmail.com. www.wrestlingnetwork.com. Make sure you subscribe. Leave us reviews wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, you can make sure to subscribe to our Last Match Standing podcast channel on YouTube. Hit that notification button. Comment your thoughts below the videos. We would love to hear your thoughts because we are coming off of not just the Expo, but what was an incredible episode for us, our last go-around with Walter versus Tyler Bate, and we had the most fun reviewing, reliving, and ranking that match. And, we definitely want to hear your thoughts on that one, and I know we're going to want to hear your thoughts today on Chris Jericho versus Rey Mysterio.
Oh, absolutely.
These are two guys that are not strangers to our list so far, right? Both have been on the list before, and I have it on good authority that they will probably, in some regard, be on the list
Oh,
again.
they definitely will. It's just whenever this one popped up, I'm like, I remember watching that match live. It was terrible. Then I'm like, wait, no, it wasn't. The show was terrible. This match was great.
So this is our second Lucha de Apuestas match,
Yes,
correct?
it is.
Yeah! Oh, it's good.
So fun. So fun.
Good. And you know what I miss from this one that's not there, that was in the last one? Iron Mike Tenay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Although,
man.
hey, look, no.
He would have added a lot to this one.
Because let me tell you who Iron Mike Tenay is not, and that is Todd Grisham, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, now, Todd Grisham had his hand held by JR the entire time. He did a...
Listen, I'm sure Todd Grisham's a great guy. Like,
Look,
it's JR and Todd Grisham on commentary. However, this match goes 15-ish minutes, and 8 or 9 of those is them just saying, by the way, title versus mask. Title versus mask. Ray might lose his mask. That's the whole thing. That's the whole commentary. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, I thought it was Matt Stryker at first.
This one is very interesting to me. I've heard people compare this match to Eddie Ray Halloween Havoc, currently top 10 on our list.
Not quite,
and
but
even,
it's very good.
Even so much as saying it's the greatest of either man's career, which if you think about the two men in the ring, that is incredibly high praise.
Maybe, like, for this time to have that match, like, at this point in both their careers, I could see where they're coming from with that. But, no, I think they both had better matches individually. I don't think they had a better match together, though. This
yeah,
might
I mean,
be the peak.
I heard that, and I wasn't really convinced. I mean, I recall
maybe the
this
greatest match that they ever had.
I recall this match. I never really thought of it as something that was worth going back to. But I think I only saw it the one time in 2009, an era when, admittedly, I was disenchanted with pro wrestling in 2009.
You see, I wasn't, though, because I was just getting back into it, and I thought that everything they were showing us was the best shit I've ever seen before. And then I started watching older wrestling. And then I started watching TNA. And then I started dipping my toes into the Japanese scene. And I started finding, like, Ring of Honor tapes. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
this is not
Paul,
good. This other stuff is
Paul,
great.
by the way, the Japanese scene just called. They'd like you to take your toes out now.
Okay.
However, what I did get from this one after reliving it is that these guys were seasoned at this point.
Yeah.
They had a distinct style that you were used to seeing from them, and they changed their game to tell the story for this match. It's really something special to see.
I think the reason why this match is as good as it is because they're second on the card. And they probably are both like, how fucking dare you? This is one of the hottest feuds in the company right now, and we're second.
Yeah.
We'll show you.
Well, I think what's worth noting about this match and the two guys in the ring is that this version of Chris Jericho, which, like we all know, there's 100 of them, and most of them are all really good. But this version of Chris Jericho, having him have his biggest desire to be removing the mask of Rey Mysterio just makes sense.
Well, this is a year out from the suit-clad, no merchandise, punching fans outside of, like, events Jericho. This is, like, scary Jericho's blurring the lines between being a pro wrestling character and just, like, legitimately being a scary human being.
And we are not all that far away from the Chris Jericho Shawn Michaels ladder match at No Mercy, which we very easily could see again.
We're less than a year away from that.
Well, this match took place during Chris Jericho's I Hate Hypocrites.
Yes.
I mean, he was literally accusing people of hiding behind masks and being troglodytes, which I had to look up means cave people.
Yeah, well, this started...
and Rey Mysterio, obviously, a living symbol of these types of people, right? Not a troglodyte. But hiding behind a mask, right?
Do you want to know where the hypocrite thing came from?
No, where?
Yes,
where?
It came from the WrestleMania 25 program that he had with Piper. I say Ric Flair. Ric Flair was at ringside, but it was Piper, Snuka, and Steamboat. And then Flair was there, and he kept he's like, you're all over the hill. You sell out every time you come to this arena. You just sell out to these fans who, you give them they cry for your blood, and you come out here and you insult our intelligence. They want to see the current stars. They don't want to see these washed up over the hill.
Hold on now. I think you left out a very important detail, and that's Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke, yes. Well, okay. So WrestleMania 25, we were supposed to see Randy the Ram versus Chris Jericho. That was supposed to happen, but Mickey Rourke's manager and including some very important people in the realm of Hollywood said, you do this, you're not getting an Oscar.
Yeah.
So he bowed out, and he got a Golden Globe, but he didn't get the Oscar, and I think he probably should have that year. They gave it to Sean Penn for Harvey Milk. Great movie, but come on, man.
Mickey Rourke did a great job, I think he would have done a great job in the ring with Chris Jericho.
This is as good a time as ever to announce our spinoff Last Oscar Standing, where we relive, review, and rank all Oscar winners in history. Every Oscar nominee. My God. It's a really long show. Be ready.
It's going to be like a 4-hour episode every time. So, gentlemen, how we got here is actually a very interesting one. So I mentioned WrestleMania 25. So WrestleMania 25, Jericho has his feud with the Old School, as they call him. Old School is still cool, is what Piper said. That did not get over.
No.
Piper, who...
Oh, my God. Is that when they had, Legends House? Is this...
I love Legends
House came a year later. Actually, I think Legends House was recorded around this time, but they didn't release it until the network came out.
Oh,
so it was recorded around here.
And I'll never forget that the one WrestleMania Access I went to, there was that literal, they had a stage with, it looked like the interior of a house with the Legends House logo.
Yeah. Did you meet Roddy
Piper? And you could go up and meet Roddy Piper
yeah.
and all those
I
folks.
met Roddy Piper.
See, I met Roddy Piper at WrestleCon, where people were coming up to talk to him, but he didn't really have a line. It was just you kind of walked up and you could just see him, and I saw him and I shook his hand, and God damn it, did he crush my fucking hand with his grip?
Oh,
and I'm I don't know how old he was. This is 2014. I forget how old he was at the time, but that man was fucking strong.
Yeah.
And then I embarrassed myself when I met Kevin Nash, but I'm not going to talk about that. So anyway, WrestleMania 25 saw Rey Mysterio facing JBL for the Intercontinental title.
Instant classic.
And he beat JBL in about 12 seconds. And JBL announces, I quit! And walks out.
Yeah, one way to get the strap off of him, put it on Rey.
Yeah.
Ray, came off of a World Heavyweight Championship run a couple years back. What else are you going to do with him? I think Intercontinental Championship is a really decent spot for Rey Mysterio at this point in both the championships kind of spot where the championship is at the moment and where Rey Mysterio was in his career.
Yeah, well, here's the problem, though. After WrestleMania, Rey didn't really have a feud. He would just have non-title matches on SmackDown, or he'd have a title match against whoever the number one ranked contender was, and it shows how much I remember because I couldn't fucking tell you who any of them were.
Well, it's okay.
Even though I looked it up yesterday,
Rey,
took notes.
So at this point, Rey, his knees are giving
pretty
out.
Bad.
Okay,
yeah.
He's done a lot of really great work throughout his career. He's given so much of his body to the wrestling industry. You can tell he's not quite the same, but he can still go, and he's still so intelligent in the ring. And I think that's sort of the type of matches that he was delivering at this point in his career.
Absolutely. And so Jericho, after his 3-on-1 gauntlet match, basically, because he wrestled them one at a time, and then he beat one of them, the next one would come in. And then Flair comes in, he beats up Flair, and then he calls out Mickey Rourke, who just hits a straight left hand and knocks him out. So that match showcased just how good Ricky Steamboat still was.
Oh, yeah.
So this led to a one-on-one match at Backlash against Ricky Steamboat, which was fan-fucking-tastic. Ricky Steamboat was 52 years old, and he could still go. And he still looked like Ricky Steamboat. He didn't look like an old man pretending to be Steamboat. That was still Steamboat. And I say that because Snuka looked like an old man that was struggling. Piper, bless him, he was trying, but he could not do it anymore. And Flair, well, he did it a year later in TNA, but it was very obvious by the way he looked here that Flair, stay retired, please do not wrestle again. So after this, we still have this hypocrite Jericho. So he starts coming after Rey Mysterio. And what is the best way to start a feud?
Shampoo commercials.
Yep, that's what I was about to say.
That's a great one. The correct answer is...
Get her pregnant.
Ooh.
Wait.
The correct answer is you wait in the crowd wearing all of your opponent's branded merch. And when he comes to... Because remember, Rey Mysterio did the whole thing. He would go and I say headbutt, but he was really just he'd grab the kids and they'd lock foreheads and he'd say something to them and he'd give them his pre-match hood. Well, it was a fan wearing that very, very same hood that punched him, jumped over the barricade, cracked him with a chair, and then proceeded to tear his mask open.
It was damn good.
And it was Jericho. And this led to Jericho's, Rey Mysterio, you're a hypocrite. You hide behind that mask. You're a troglodyte. That's where all this came from. So the match is set for Extreme Rules in New Orleans. I was there. It was a very bad show. But... the Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho match was a lot of fun and had a very creative ending. I say creative. It hadn't been done in WWE. It had been done in WCW. It had been done in Mexico, but not in WWE. While attempting the 619, Chris reaches his hand up, pulls the mask off Rey Mysterio. Rey is more concerned with covering his face. Jericho rolls him up, 1, 2, 3, and Jericho wins his historic 9th IC title reign.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that ending... even if it's been done elsewhere,
had not been done in WWE,
still felt fresh. And I thought it was really a unique way to do it.
We were shocked.
I loved it.
I remember.
Yeah.
We were there.
Yeah.
I was completely stunned. I've never seen anybody do that to Rey before. How dare you? It was we were that was A, it was very creative, and B, the entire crowd was just, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's those hushed tones.
There's
You're
literally
absolutely right.
There was literally this moment of, did Jericho just go into business for himself? Was he supposed to lose? Because this is at the era of we don't know what's going through Jericho's mind.
Yeah, it was so dastardly and not in the way that's illegal, right? This was not an
illegal
hold. This was totally within the realms of the rules. But he broke perhaps the most sacred code in pro wrestling.
You do not take off your opponent's mask.
Morally, he messed up.
Not only did he win, but Rey doesn't come back on TV for I think 2 or 3 weeks. So there's an episode of SmackDown. Jericho is in a #1 contendership for the World Heavyweight Championship, which at this point is held by CM Punk, who cashed in that night as the fans were leaving because we were like, all right, Jeff already beat Edge. We're going home. CM Punk comes out. Oh, shit, we have a new World Heavyweight Champion. He loses that match because Jericho loses his #1 contendership match because Rey Mysterio, also decked out in full gear, jumps over the barricade and attacks Chris Jericho, causing him to lose the #1 contendership. And it's set. All right now, player, I'm on probation, but you're going to go one-on-one with Rey Mysterio for your Intercontinental title.
That's right. Teddy Long was on probation.
On probation. And Jericho says, I'll put this on the line if Rey Mysterio will take off his mask and never wear it again. And here we are, gentlemen.
It's Jericho, the most decorated Intercontinental Champion of all time.
To this day.
Defending the championship that he is so closely identified with. He made his name with that championship.
It's the first title he won, and it's the last title he won in that company.
Up against Rey Mysterio. And the mask that he had built his career building a reputation for. I mean, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners of the world, that this is the Mysterio family mask. His uncle, the original Rey Mysterio, wore this mask as well. So, I mean, just a huge, huge deal. This two things that identify what these guys are.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to me, is it just makes for one of the most huge moments in pro wrestling that really, it just sort of writes itself.
Yeah, and again, when we think about this match and maybe why it would qualify for a list like this, it's exactly those reasons. It's two absolute legends.
Oh yeah,
coming together to fight over the things that made them legendary, and I think that's hugely important. And listen, it doesn't get any bigger than the Bash, right? So huge stage.
Okay, so the Bash was kayfabe booked by Donald Trump, who bought Monday Night Raw from Vince McMahon. This is like the go-home Raw before the Bash happens. Donald Trump walks out and he said, Monday Night Raw is your show. It's going to be commercial free. That's right. No commercials. And everyone in the audience, you're getting a full refund. You're getting your money back. Loudest pop in the of this era from the crowd. Like, oh shit, we're getting our money back.
You get a Bugatti, and you get a Bugatti, and you get a Bugatti.
I don't know if they actually did that or not, or if it was just a stunt. But you cannot walk out on live TV and say you're getting a refund and you don't.
Hey, listen, if you know the answer to that, if you were in the crowd that night, did you get a refund?
Did you get a Bugatti?
And he announced the big money announcement for that night. Because the 3 States of Hell, that had already been booked. The big money announcement for that night was, this Sunday, The Miz makes history as he goes one-on-one against John Cena. Yeah, that was the big money announcement.
Well, that was actually...
The Miz was going to main event his first...
Admittedly, I kind of enjoyed this Miz Cena feud.
I did.
Oh, I really
quite
did.
a bit.
I really
right?
did.
The whole no Cena shirt, that was good stuff.
Because this is still the Miz with his faux hawk and wearing the jean shorts
Yeah.
and he hadn't found his character yet.
I was a huge Miz fan in early Miz career.
He doesn't find that character until they have a show in Calgary actually where he wears the trunks and he wears the long knee pads and he kind of finds that look and he's stuck with it ever since. Yeah.
I think it works for him.
It does, but it took him a long time to find it.
So, just so we're clear, you're telling me that Donald J. Trump booked the bash.
In kayfabe.
Right. And it did not go well.
No.
So, what you're saying is...
The next night, there is a hour-long last man standing match.
What you're saying is that when Donald Trump is put in charge of something... It does not go well.
That is exactly what I'm saying.
I'm presenting that statement with no context, and we're going to move right past it.
Well, it's funny you mention that because the shareholders panicked the second they heard that Donald Trump bought Raw. They panicked. So Vince immediately canned the entire idea of Donald Trump owning Raw and bought it back from the next night. But we got celebrity guest hosts.
Does this mean that this leads us to The Price is Raw?
It does.
Because that's all I really
You
think
don't
about.
get The Price is Raw without Trump Raw. You don't get there without it. You don't get Chris Jericho not wanting to participate until he gets an answer right, and then he's like, yes, all right, Barker, ask him, ask me.
Anywhere, anytime, Barker. Oh, man.
No, or the best part of that is, does that include taxes, Bob? No, everyone, it does not. Well, everyone has to pay their fair share, Bob. None of these tax cheats here to really understand anything about that, but you and I, Bob, you know.
I love that. I'm going off a little bit of a tangent, but I really love this moment.
So anyway,
Chris,
Charles Robinson. I'm sorry.
Fuck me, right? What I have to say is not important at all.
I'm kidding.
We're
I'm
just
sorry.
talking about the single most impressive segment in the history of Monday Night Raw.
It was really good.
Which is The Price is Raw. And Chris Jericho is talking to Bob Barker, and he says that he is one of the greatest, and Bob Barker cuts him off and says, one. That was your bid. One is your bid.
Chris Jericho, you're the closest not going over. What? I won? Yes, you won. Yay! He goes from about to kill him to so happy.
If I could have, and this is so everyone asks the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. For me, my question is, if I could have any 4 wrestlers in Contestants Row that night, Owen Hart would be one of them.
Oh, yes.
Owen Hart would have been a great contestant on The Price is Raw. Could you imagine?
Oh, my
God. Could you imagine?
Yes.
The Repo Man, I think, would be perfect for that spot as well. I would keep IRS.
You got to keep IRS,
because that was gold. And then the 4th one, oh, God.
I think Bailey would be a really fun contestant.
Especially modern crazy Bailey.
Would love that.
Cutting off Titus O'Neil at WrestleMania Bailey. All right, so Charles Robinson is your official for this match, and who else could do this one?
Man,
this
Charles
is
Robinson.
Wait, Toru Yano. I want to see Toru Yano on Price is Raw.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Sorry, go ahead.
Basically the entire Dark Order. I want to see them on there.
Yes.
Johnny Youngie.
We could do this all night. Sorry.
So it wouldn't be a mask versus title match if Jericho didn't immediately go after the mask.
The second the bell rings.
The
second the bell rings. But it speaks a lot to Jericho and his goal. It almost feels like Jericho is not defending his title. He's trying to take that mask, and that's the most important part.
He doesn't care about the belt. He already set the record for the most wins. He doesn't care. He wants that. I'm going to quote JR directly. The trophy case for Chris Jericho has a lot of belts, but it won't be complete until he has Rey Mysterio's mask.
Yeah, such a good line. Such a good line. And that absolutely tells you where Chris Jericho's mind is at going into this match. And this is a match that I think is really interesting because, almost similarly to Tyler Bate building momentum against Walter in our previous episode, when Rey Mysterio is building momentum against Chris Jericho, he always finds a way to keep him back down.
He does.
And the earliest example of that, I think, is Chris Jericho gets put outside the ring. Rey goes for a baseball slide. Jericho catches him and swings him into the barricade.
Oh, that looks so rough, too. And I feel like every time we see that, we've seen that a couple times on our list. Hey, we're talking about a list. We have Jericho in the match. Every time that happens, I always go, oh, that was so stiff. I hope he's okay. And I'm like, well, clearly, because he got up and kept wrestling.
Yeah. And listen, the same sort of moment happens when they get back in the ring. Rey starts to sort of punch and get back into it. He runs the ropes, but he runs into a Chris Jericho tilt-a-whirl backbreaker.
Followed by an, ask him! Headlock. He's got a headlock, and he's shouting, ask him! I love Jericho's trash talk.
Jericho trash talking in the ring is one of the best.
He will get the most basic headlock and start shouting, ask him.
So I think we've talked at length about how Jericho is the master of changing his gimmick, just always coming up with new things and new ways. And one of the things he was doing at this time was the smirk. And you get that great Jericho little half smile, side eye after a shoulder tackle at the top of this match, and I just loved it.
Now, one thing I want to point out about Chris Jericho here, this is 12 years ago, and he looks exactly the same now, just his longer hair.
He looks pretty good.
He doesn't age. I was watching Dynamite recently and go, he doesn't look 50 years old.
He's got some gray.
He does, but he doesn't look like a 50-year-old man.
He does not, for sure.
It's amazing. He must.
I kind of disagree. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of Chris Jericho in my life, and I think he looks great. Like, please do not at me on Twitter I'm not ragging on Chris Jericho.
For 50, he looks pretty damn good.
He has aged. I'm not going to pretend that he doesn't look aged.
But he looks exactly the same here.
No, he does not.
Shorter hair and less tattoos.
I don't think he looks that way at all. I think he looks very different.
His face is
now.
almost identical.
Well, he's the same man. I don't think he looks exactly the same. It's been 13 years.
Yeah,
or so.
I think it's safe to say he looks good for his age.
He does. Absolutely.
So, guys, this pace is unrelenting.
Well, Landon said earlier that we're getting to the point sort of in Rey's career where his body has taken a beating and things start to change a little bit. But this match might be, sort of an exception to that because Rey is, like a bullet the whole time.
He is. He doesn't stop.
There's a sequence here right after, that tilt-a-whirl backbreaker or so when Rey goes off the top rope over the top to Jericho on the outside, which looks incredible.
Yeah.
He follows that up with a springboard crossbody, a head scissors into the turnbuckle for Jericho, and a double springboard moonsault.
Oh,
springboard slingshot moonsault.
Those are all back to back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? What it sort of reminded me of, and not that this is a callback at all, because this match happened at WrestleMania 37, Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks.
Beautifully said. Yeah, absolutely.
And do you think that was a callback to this match,
possibly.
Or just maybe Rey Mysterio in general?
Maybe Rey Mysterio in general.
Could have been.
But my thing is, we're watching Rey do this. This is in the Rey slowing down, gaining weight, playing things kind of safe. Fans are booing him because he's not doing his stuff, and he's doing it here. And I'm sitting there going, he's proving a point right now. He's like, I can still go. We should not be number 2. We should be semi-main.
And Jericho, not to be outdone, catches Mysterio at one point in the middle of a moonsault.
Oh, it does.
Power slams him.
It looked horrible, too.
When's the last time you have seen Chris Jericho do a power slam?
Oh, what I love about this matchup is that Chris Jericho, for better or worse, is typically the smaller opponent in a match. But being able to see him play the powerhouse role against Rey Mysterio, that's part of what makes Rey Mysterio's career so interesting, is because you get a different type of match with other wrestlers that they don't normally get to have because of Rey Mysterio's size. And so seeing Jericho as the powerhouse is a ton of fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the only good point that Todd Grisham makes, is that Jericho's always a smaller guy here, but Rey Mysterio is always an underdog.
Yeah, it feels very similar to me with like Eddie and Rey, right? Because Eddie doesn't normally play the powerhouse, but he does against Rey Mysterio, and he does a damn good job of it.
And so does Jericho. So I love this because we don't get too far off we get a top rope moonsault. But this is the era of Jericho finding a way to reverse any move into the walls of Jericho.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rey does the Hurricanrana. Chris just grabs those legs and drops down into it. I think my favorite example of this, they have a cage match where Rey goes for a top rope Hurricanrana and just jumps with them and drops right into the walls of Jericho. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sitting there going, how? How did neither one of you get hurt right there?
It was beautiful. It's really beautiful to see. And another thing that I'm really impressed with from Chris Jericho's side, I love his adjustments. So, and this is sort of working with both of them in mind, though, because Mysterio is in the walls, and Rey is having trouble overpowering Jericho to get to the ropes. So he just starts hammer fisting Jericho's legs, which it isn't enough to break the hold per se. But what it is enough to do is force Jericho to adjust his posture and release some of the leverage. And that is what leads to Mysterio to escape. It's just brilliant.
These are two guys putting on a clinic when, basically the situation around them is demanding anything but.
Oh, yeah. Well, they just came from a championship scramble match that had no reaction. The next match is John Cena and The Miz.
So it sort of feels like they're sort of putting this match on in spite of what's happening around them.
They are. I really think they were expecting to come on later with more time, and I think time got cut, and they're like, you're going on second, and they're like, all right, fuck you.
Well, and the crowd likes it, and they should, because they have a lot of really awesome stuff happening here. And this is a match. Paul, you mentioned, this is Jericho finding a way to turn any move into the walls, but they both have some great reversal sequences in this match because they know each other really well, and they are both, they've been at it a long time.
How about the torture rack reversed into a tornado DDT?
Okay, I got to admit something right here. I stole that spot and used it in every match I had when I was wrestling in XSW.
Hell yeah, man.
Every single match I did it.
It's a beautiful spot.
Because I loved it. It's surprisingly easy to do because they do all the work.
Yeah, I mean, you just take that momentum, swing all the way around, and it looks great.
You just get them up on your shoulders, and they do everything else.
There's another reversal that Jericho is able to manage. Rey goes for a top rope Hurricanrana, right? The Frankensteiner. And Jericho is able to catch him and turn it into
a power bomb. And let me tell you something. When Jericho debuted in WCW, his finish was the power bomb.
It was because it was a double power bomb, right?
Power bomb.
He would boom, and then he'd pick you up and boom again.
He could only do it to like Rey Mysterio or like 6, but like he still did it. He did it a little bit in WWE, but he could only do it to like X-Pac or Scotty 2 Hotty.
You know what? That's a good note. It's very possible, and I'm sure many people listening right now can recall, Chris Jericho and Rey Mysterio probably had several matches together on Nitro.
They did.
Yeah.
And they had 5 minutes, but they would do it.
That's a really good
That's
point.
why I think it's funny that Charles Robinson's reffing this match, because I'm pretty sure he reffed a lot of those matches.
I'm sure, yeah. Good
so
point.
He's probably going, oh, I know what these two can do. These fans don't.
Speaking of Charles Robinson here, is it just me, or was he super slow to hit the mat for those 3 counts?
I don't think he was expecting them to set the pace they set.
Well, especially like whenever they do the pin party. You know what I'm talking about?
And he's not even there, and they're just kicking out anyway. They're like, God damn it, get in position.
It is sort of strange. I'm glad you mentioned that because I almost thought about it, and then I was like, that was kind of weird. Like I watched it, I was just not surprised. I was a little taken aback, I guess would be the phrase I'd use, because Robin, like when Lil Nate is in there, it's right down the middle. Like nobody's better than him. But a little strange. I would agree with that.
I got to point this out because I think we're in an era now where he never hits it, but the lion salt misses.
It sure does. Yep.
This is the era where he
and I liked it because it was sort of almost a tit for tat moment because you've seen Rey Mysterio hit 2 moonsaults up to this point.
Yeah. I think that's Jericho. Oh yeah, I can do one too. Misses. Rey gets the Dragon Rana. When's the last time you saw a Dragon Rana?
Not sure, but man, I love seeing it.
Ooh.
Yeah, beautiful.
I mean, it's been kind of replaced with the Poison Rana, but the Dragon Rana was something special.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see him very often.
Walk me through that, Paul. How would you perform that?
A Dragon Rana. So Rey does the springboard where he jumps up and sits on the shoulders, and then he twists as he does a Hurricane Rana.
Mm-hmm.
But people say, oh, it's just a Hurricane Rana. I said, no. A Hurricane Rana from a springboard or from the top rope where you jump and hit the shoulders, that's the Dragon Rana. And he also twists as he flips him over.
It's really, really beautiful. I think
really
Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio obviously is the master of twisting and spinning in the middle, in midair, and it's really fun to watch.
Gosh, and I completely forgot that Jericho even did this. But whenever Rey goes for the huge springboard crossbody and it gets counted into the code breaker, there was a moment where I stopped existing in this plane and was traveled back in time. Like, that's right. I forgot about the code breaker. And he would counter everything into that.
Yeah, he still does. I mean, he still uses the code breaker a good bit.
Not like he used to, though.
But this was one of the best instances I could say of it. It's reminiscent of Randy Orton hitting an RKO out of nowhere sort of deal.
Well,
truly beautiful.
Well, like a good example is Randy Orton doing it from Evan Bourne. From Matt Sydal.
Yes, very similar spot.
Jericho did the same thing, but it was like, because he had to run up and get a running start, or Randy just kind of caught him. So when that happened, like I said, I just kind of, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot he did that.
And it's one of those things where Rey Mysterio is able to sell something like that in the most effective way. Like, you think Rey Mysterio is done, like dead after this, right?
Rey is the master at that, though.
Yeah, it was so good.
And I love this because then Jericho does snake eyes, and I'm like, what is he doing?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
But he wants to be...
He's loosening up that mask is what he's doing.
But he gets to a point where he's like, no, I'm going to beat Rey at his own game. I'm going to do a top rope Frankensteiner. No, you're going to show the top rope.
Yeah, was there a little bit of a botch at this point?
Well, I actually think... so when I saw it, I didn't think Frankensteiner. I thought he was going for almost an avalanche code breaker. Like, that's like that's what I thought. And then there was a sort of obviously Jericho was supposed to get pushed off. There was sort of a hesitation there. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as calling it a botch, but it was pretty close.
It was close, but Jericho's like, I got to jump. And he just throws himself back.
He does. That's what it looks like. It looks like he just bails out of the move he was going to do.
I think so. I think he's like, I'm going to fall, so he just jumped. It's the safest thing you can possibly do. It looks like Rey shoved him off. I think what Rey was trying to do is Rey was trying to brace for the jump, and or maybe was trying to catch him, and then Chris just bailed.
Yeah, I would say out of all the matches we've covered so far, this would be the most awkward moment to make the list.
Yeah, definitely.
I really didn't feel that way. It didn't
You don't think so? It took me out of it a little bit.
I think we've had other botches actually on this list in different moments.
Fair enough.
Now, I'm not going to say that it wasn't awkward.
It was a little awkward,
but it didn't come off to me as because for me, Chris Jericho sometimes comes off as kind of goofy when he's in the ring.
He does,
and so
he could be a little sloppy. It's very true,
and that's not any slight to him.
And I think Jericho would be the first to tell you that he's not. I mean, the Chris Irvine would be like, "I'm not the greatest of all time." Jericho, I am the greatest of all fucking time. I don't make mistakes, but I'm pretty sure
to me, and this is a personal opinion, please feel free to disagree with me. The reason I love Chris Jericho is because that he's always changing. He's always interesting to watch, and his ability to work a promo, and then his in-ring psychology. As far as his in-ring work technically and, actually as a professional wrestler, as far as, being able to work holds, not my favorite of all time.
I think that's.
I like
totally
Jericho,
fair.
but he's not I don't want to watch 10 hours of Jericho matches. I'll watch.
I wouldn't either. Yeah,
I would love to watch.
I'll watch 10 hours of Jericho promos.
I would too, especially the ones he's been doing during lockdown. They're amazing. So Rey uses this time to finally hit the 619, but when it goes to the West Coast pop, it is again countered into the walls of Jericho. once again, God damn it, Chris. He just is so good at just catching people in this move. And he doesn't like catch him and roll into it. He catches him and immediately steps into it.
It's a smooth transition. It sort of reminds me of the way Kurt Angle could turn anything that you did into an ankle lock. It doesn't matter. He's going to figure out a way.
Or what we talked about at WrestleMania 20, Benoit turning any momentum into a crossface.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like that, and it's amazing how he does this. So Ray tries to escape with a backslide. This is the pin you're talking about.
The pin party.
The pin party where we can't quite get in position. Ray escapes.
Come on, Charles.
Oh, he tries. So Jericho drops into his own pin. Ray tries to roll out into a different pin. And this is when Chris rips off the mask. And he's like, ha, I got it. And then he turns around. Ray's wearing a second mask and hits a bewildered Jericho with an enziguri. Gets a 619, the West Coast pop. He wins. Ray is the new IC champion, and he keeps his mask. But most importantly of all, he outsmarted Chris Jericho, who is still holding the other mask and is confused.
So I'm glad you said that. I thought it was an excellent finish. Let's talk about the West Coast pop, if we can. I was always under the impression a West Coast pop was springboard Hurricanrana into a pin.
Yeah, so I would call this a 619 with a splash.
Yeah. Which is what he did in the latter part of his career because the West Coast pop was, I guess, more strenuous.
It was a little too much on him.
Yeah, I would agree the West Coast pop is not that.
Maybe he transitioned it and just called whatever he did after a 619 a West Coast pop. I don't know, but that's just always the way I understood it.
Well, what kind of got me here is he hit the 619 earlier and went for the Hurricanrana, but it got reversed. I think that's why he did the splash. How's he going to reverse a splash on his back?
And Jericho's real close to the ropes, right?
He
is. Like, it makes the most sense because it's that falling splash. It's not even like a big springboard jump. But again, excellent finish. Coming off of the Extreme Rules match where Jericho wins by pulling off the mask. How smart of Rey Mysterio to plan for that, knowing Jericho would do it again.
And what I also really enjoyed is there's a lot of close-ups of Rey. You cannot tell he's wearing a second mask underneath.
Right.
That camera is right in his face several times during the match when the mask has been pulled and shoved. And I'm like, there were two? There's one part you can kind of see something underneath, but I think that was actually tape. I think the mask was taped together so they wouldn't shift. And if you look at that second mask, the eye holes are cut much bigger. He doesn't have the birds on the side, and the back, those strings are really, really thin. It was really hard to tell. I did really like how he had like a spider web shaved into his head. That was pretty cool. I'm like, what's going on there? That's a cool haircut.
Real creative finish, and really a memorable match between two of the greatest to ever do it. And I had a lot of fun watching it back. It's a fast one. It's 15 minutes. It doesn't feel like 15 minutes. It feels like
quick.
5 to 6.
Oh yeah.
They jam pack a lot of action into not a lot of time, and it makes for the match of the night, no doubt.
And by a country mile.
Yeah, and one that leaves sort of a lasting impact and a lasting memory, which I appreciate.
And here's what I want to talk about. So there was speculation that they had time cut or the card was changed because that's exactly what happened to them. They had their time cut, and they were bumped down to the second match of the night. And both men were very bitter and upset about this, and that's why we got the match we got. This was the two of them proving what they can still do, even though both of them are getting up there. Jericho's 40 years old in this match. I think Ray is, I don't know, maybe 35 or 36. He's not exactly a young man either, but this is, as we said, at this point, Ray has had 5 knee surgeries in one leg alone. They're both getting to the twilight era of their careers, and they basically come out and do this. This match needed to happen for both of them, and it happened at the right time, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's funny, when you talk about they're in the twilight of their career, but here we are now, 12 years later,
and they're still
going. So maybe it was a sort of a lower point.
It was. It's a low point for both of them, I think.
But in their arc, I guess.
Yeah.
But to your point, it happened at the right time for them.
It does. Well, after this, Jericho goes back to main event feuds.
Yeah.
He was like stuck in the mid card ever since he had his failed attempt for the with
Randy Orton when he came back, right? I mean, it was because that's when he first came back. He still has the Save Us trunks on.
He does,
so obviously it wasn't that long removed from his big return where he was saving us from Randy Orton.
Well, he had his main event feud
but it didn't work because Randy Orton was still the champion.
No. Well, he had his main event feud with Shawn Michaels, and after that he just kind of got stuck in mid-card hell, and then this kind of pushed him back up. He wins the tag team titles with Edge, who then tears his Achilles.
Huh.
And then he goes on to form...
He wins the tag team titles with Edge later this night, by the way, at the Bash.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So just a couple matches later, it's supposed to be Legacy versus the Colognes or something like that. Like, I can't remember. I know it's a Legacy and another team. And Teddy Long comes out and says, hey, listen, my job's on the line. I'm going to make this even better. We're going to throw a third team in there, and it's Chris Jericho and Edge.
They win the titles, but Edge ruptures his Achilles tendon, and he's out
well,
for
actually,
a year.
You know what? I think that's because, so at some point in this card, because I, like Paul, I watched a little bit of this pay-per-view, Edge goes up to Teddy Long.
Yeah.
And demands to be put in the title match.
He demands to be put in the main event with the world title match. And he's like, and he says, Teddy Long, you better figure out something or you're going to be fired, because he knows Teddy Long's on probation. So that's what he comes up with.
Yeah, interesting.
See, originally Jericho didn't want to do that. That's why I had his match cut.
I'm kind of glad he did. I think Jericho teaming with he's teamed with so many people. Always successfully. Oh, yeah. Always successfully.
And and to speak to Chris Jericho's character at the time, to lose one title and pick another one up later down the line that night is brilliant.
Oh, yeah. And what I love about that is the next night, the 2 nights later, on SmackDown, he comes out and he's like, okay, well, Edge is injured, but I have a suitable replacement. The Big Show comes out. We're like, oh, fuck the Big Show. That's one of the best fucking tag teams in this era.
Jericho.
So fucking good.
What a great theme song.
And they become like the main event fucking tag team for the next 9 months.
Yeah, they're great. It's a really, really fun run. I think that was, one of the things that kept me watching in 2009.
I'll give you an example. I was in the Raw in Lafayette the night after the Super Bowl, and these two were still tag champs.
Yeah.
That was when Big Show had the horrible facial hair and the terrible gear.
He had like the wannabe Mr. Perfect singlet, and he had like his little shitty horseshoe beard. It was bad. It was a bad look. And you had Jericho who like was letting his hair grow out a little bit, and he'd gotten his first tattoo, and you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. But favorite moments, guys. What do you think?
Honestly, that second mask reveal, I love that.
Great.
It's great so much.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love Jericho catching Mysterio over and over again.
Same.
It's almost like what can Mysterio possibly do to escape it? And then just again his ability to make these subtle adjustments in the ring.
Oh yeah.
It was really, really fun to see.
Landon, I will second that. Jericho catching Mysterio and just that story, I think, was really special. So I would agree with that as well. But it is time for now the 64th time we have to rank this match on our list of the greatest matches of all time. Last episode, we did a really good job, I think, of being sort of in the same mindset. And I was nervous about it going in. So I'm really curious this time around how it's going to go. And if you guys don't mind, I'll go first. How's that?
Absolutely, please.
That never happens. So
it's happened like twice, and both times you've been like, boom, we're like, oh, fuck, we can't argue with that. All right, you win.
Well, yeah, and that's because me going first.
I do have a strong opinion on this one, so I'd be interested to see.
Yeah.
I think we're all going to have very, very different, very strong opinions about this.
I think so.
I don't love going first because it subjects me to that opening. Like I don't want to be way off base. You know what I mean?
You got to have that strong opening salvo though.
Right. So for me, when I look at this list of so far 63 matches that are some of the best to have ever happened, and then I pit it up against Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, The Bash. God, I'm gonna say it one more time. The Bash. Right.
This Sunday at The Bash. It's going to be Chris Jericho versus Rey Mysterio.
I can't.
It's a terrible name. There's no wonder they got rid of this after this night.
Admittedly, this match does not climb all that high.
No, not for me either.
So I would put it at number 60. right below New Day versus the Usos, and right above RVD and Sabu versus Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinzaki. Listen, not all of our matches are going to be top 10 material.
Yeah, something's got to be in the bottom.
And I love this match, but I can't compare it to things like Rock Hogan and Angle Undertaker and
absolutely.
Trish and Lita and feel like it's
there was a moment where I was looking at the list and I'm like, man, I really like this match. I had a lot of fun, but I'm like, I fell into the trap of comparing it to like other Rey Mysterio matches, and I'm like, well, it's not as good as Eddie and Rey or the other Eddie and Rey match. So I'm like, okay, what's the other Rey Mysterio match we have? That's the Dean Malenko match. Okay, I think that one's actually better. So
I can see it being match of the year for WWE in 2009, maybe.
Had some pretty strong competition for WrestleMania, but yeah,
I'm not as enchanted as I thought I would be based on the high praise that this match has received. Out of 64 matches, for me, this would be 64.
Nah, I wouldn't put it at 64.
That's what I would do. I think the standard bearer right now is TLC 1, and I enjoyed the TLC match a great deal. There's a reason it's on the list. And look, there's a reason this match is on the list too. I don't want to discount putting it on there. I think we should. I think it's worth talking about. I would, to be fair, enjoy TLC a little bit more. I'd put it at 64.
So here's my argument, and Paul, I definitely want to...
No, you and I are on the same page, Spencer.
Yeah, here's my argument for why it's not dead last so far, is that TLC 1, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, the world's cutest tag team, like those matches don't tell much of a story.
No, they don't.
This match does. And it's an important, title versus mask. Jericho's obviously this legendary IC champion. It's two legends. I think it has more to offer from more than just a wrestling standpoint. Whereas the matches that I had ranked behind it are weapons, gimmicky stuff. And I think this does a good job.
No psychology, just weapons. Yeah, and I love this because, I mean, this match, I think, added so much longevity to both their careers because they were both just wasting away in mid-card hell until they had this feud. And then Rey Mysterio wins the WWE Championship twice in the next calendar year.
Yeah.
Jericho wins it once, I believe. Yeah, he wins it at... Was it still No Way Out or had officially been called Elimination Chamber? I don't remember.
It was No Way Out at that point.
It was still called No Way Out? Yeah, he wins
right?
it. Right,
that's when Shawn Michaels comes out and costs Undertaker the title.
Yeah. So Jericho wins the title there, and he doesn't lose until like the night after WrestleMania. But Rey wins the belt at Bragging Rights, I think.
Almost as big a deal.
Either Bragging Rights or Survivor Series. He wins it there. He loses it like immediately afterwards. Right. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And then about a year later, he wins it again when it's vacated. So it's like both these guys get one more shot at like the main title piece. Jericho reinvents himself again and has a outstanding main event heel like run before he becomes, stupid idiot lists joke Mitch before we get this guy. But I think this definitely gave him some more gas in the tank, I think. And you could write textbooks on the psychology that these two have, and you don't get that unless these guys have been wrestling each other since, 1996?
Yeah. Yeah, so what do you think, Paul? Do you think is 60? Did you have a different number in mind?
Well, my original number was going to be I was thinking maybe going a little bit higher, but no, I think New Day Usos should be above it, so I'd go at 60 as well.
Fair enough.
Do you? I mean, curious because you didn't get a chance to respond.
I think talking about where the story is coming from is a good argument. I still think Rob Van Dam and Sabu versus Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinzaki, that's a better match. I think it's a better match, but it doesn't tell a story like this one.
It's just crazy.
So
crazy
yeah, I think 60 is fair.
Yeah.
I just think there's, and honestly, there could be a conversation there that New Day Usos is on the same wavelength as those other 60 through 63s, with RVD and the World's Cutest Tag Team, because those are all gimmick matches.
Oh yeah,
and those are
heavily
all,
gimmicked.
We're just gonna beat the hell out of each other kind of thing.
And then you have Kevin Owens on commentary.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think this is an interesting one. I do think that we all sort of agree that it's going to be towards the bottom of the list.
There's nothing wrong with that. You're still here. You made it to the dance.
Yeah. So if you're comfortable, Landon, with 60, I wouldn't mind 61 putting it behind RVD and Sabu. If
Wouldn't break my heart either, but
is that something you want to fight harder for?
Nope. I think 60 is okay, and I'd love to hear listeners' thoughts for where they would put this match. So
I would too. I think that would be interesting because I think some people go like, "Why are you guys reviewing this one?" And I'm like, "Watch it."
Yeah, and also to be clear, like the reason why this match was a suggested match, we put on a poll and it did really well. This poll, it's part of our Twitter poll and Patreon poll where we had 3 matches that were all just about tied for the win, right? And so instead of making an executive decision, we decided, you know what? Obviously there's support behind it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's worthy. It's not our best match, but it's good.
But to answer Landon's question, this was the runner-up to Match of the Year from 2009.
There you go. Thank you for looking that up.
It only lost to Shawn Michaels Undertaker.
Oh, obviously, 2009.
I mean, that was far and away a better match, but like there was just nothing else that kind of was able to do what these two were able to do. That's why it was people like, man, this might be the best match of their career. I definitely think it's the best match that the two of them ever had. Together, obviously. I think Jericho's had better feuds with other people. I think Ray's had better feuds with other people. Obviously, I'd say Ray versus Eddie, Halloween Havoc, is the best match that Ray's ever had. Mm-hmm. Maybe not Eddie's, but definitely that's Ray's far his best match. Jericho, maybe WrestleMania 19 with Shawn might be his best match, but this is definitely the best match the two of them had.
Well, just like that, we are 64 episodes in. We are 4 episodes into season 4. And I'm already having a ton of fun.
Oh, man, one more match and we can collect Social Security, guys.
Oh, my God.
65, baby. Let's time to retire.
I will never retire. Until episode 65, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
I'm Landon.
And this is Last Match Standing.